Hare Krishna to all devotees. I'm Shriya. I'm going to start the recitation of Bhagavad Gita chapter 22. I'll start with text 22. Before that, I'll do 3 prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you. Text 22. Yadrichala bhasantushto dvandhatito vimatsaraha samah siddha vasiddho cha kritva pina nibhadyate.
He who is satisfied with gain which comes from its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions.
Text 23. Gatsangasya muktasya jnanavasthit chetasah yagyaya charatah karma samkram praviliyate.
The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence.
Text 24. Brahmarpanam brahma havi brahmagno brahmanam hutam brahmavatena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina.
A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute, and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature.
Text 25. Devmeva pare yagyam yoginah paryupasate brahmagnava pare yagyam yagyanevo juhvati.
Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some offer sacrifices in the fire of the supreme Brahman.
Text 26. Shrotra yanyanye samyamashu juhvati shabdadin vishayanyanya indriyagnishu juhvati.
Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control, and others, in the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses.
Text 27. Sarvanindriya karmani pran karmani chapare atma samyam yogagno juhvati gyan dipite.
Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind.
Text 28. Dravya yagyastapo yagya yogayagyasthatha pare swadhyaya jnana yagyascha yatyah samshitavat vrataha.
Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge.
Text 29. Apane juhvati pranam prane apanam tatha pare pranapanagati rudva pranayama parayanah apare niyataharaha prana praneshu juhvati.
Still others, who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming, and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others can tail in the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice.
Text 30. Sarvepyete yagyavido yagyakshapitkalpmashaha yagyashishtamrit bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam.
All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere.
Text 31. Nayam loko asatya yagyasya kuto anyaha kuru satam.
O best of the Kuri dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next?
Text 32. Evam bahuvidha yagya vitata brahmano mukhe karmajan vidhi tan sarva nevam gyatva vimokshayase.
All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated.
Text 33. Shreyan dravyamayadhyagya jagyan yagyah parantapa sarvam karma khilam partha jnane parisamapyate.
O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of mental possessions. After all, O son of Vritha, all sacrifice of work culminate in transcendental knowledge.
Text 34. Tadvidhi pranitpaten pariprashnena sevaya updekshayanti te jnanam jnanistattva darshinah.
Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth.
Text 35. Yajgyatva na punarmoha mevam yasyasi pandava yena bhutanya sheshani drakshasyatmanyatho mai.
Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine.
Text 36. Api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakritmah sarvam jnana plaveneva vrijinam santarishyasi.
Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries.
Text 37. Yathedhamsi samidhognir bhasmasat kurute arjun jnanagnih sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha.
As a blazing fire turns firewood into ashes, O Arjun, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities.
Text 38. Na hi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate tat swayam yoga samsiddhah kalenatmani vindati.
In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time.
Text 39. Shraddhavam labhate jnanam tatparah samya यतेनेन्द्रियः ज्ञानं लब्ध्वा परां शान्तिं चिरेणाधिगच्छति.
The faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace.
Text 40. अज्ञश्चाश्रद्धधानश्च संशयात्मा विनश्यति नायं लोकोऽस्ति न परो न सुखं संशयात्मनः.
But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor the next.
Text 41. योगसन्न्यस्तकर्माणं ज्ञानसंच्छिन्न संशयम् आत्मवन्तं न कर्माणि निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय.
One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches.
Text 42. Tasmad jnana sambhutam hridस्थं ज्ञानासीनात्मनः चित्तवैनं संशयं योग मातिष्ठोत्तिष्ठ भारत.
Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you both of you for reciting so well.
Thank you, Madhu.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you very much. Your Sanskrit was really beautiful. And English, of course, Bhavini Mataji, very, very fluent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right. I have forgotten to start my video. Here we are. Okay, so let me first share my screen. Okay. You all can see the screen now, yeah?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, so today we are on verse 36, chapter 4. So let's recite the verse. Very, very beautiful verse, actually. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 36. Api chedasi papebhya sarvebhya papakritamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vrijinam santarisyashi. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. Does anybody want to read the purport? It's quite a small purport today.
Can I read, Mataji?
Yes, please.
Proper understanding of one's constitutional position in the relationship to Krishna is so nice that it can at once lift one from the struggle for existence which goes on in the ocean of nesciences. The material world is sometimes regarded as an ocean of nescience and sometimes as the blazing forest. In the ocean, however expert a swimmer one may be, the struggle of existence is very severe. If someone comes forward and lifts the struggling swimmer from the ocean, he is the greatest savior. Perfect knowledge received from the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the path of liberation. The boat of Krishna consciousness is very simple, but at the same time, the most sublime. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Seema Mataji. Just recite our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurube Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Okay, so this verse actually is, it's full of hope. It's full of positivity, because Krishna is saying here so clearly that even if you are Papakrit Tama, the greatest sinner, and he says the greatest sinner, Sarvam, of all such sinful reactions, you may be the greatest sinner, but by Jnana Plavena, by the boat of transcendental knowledge, you can cross the ocean of miseries. Isn't it full of hope, where Krishna is promising, as he does in so many other places in the Gita, where he says that once you come to me, you surrender to me, I will relieve you of all sinful reactions. I feel sometimes, when we are down with whatever problems, it's so nice to just pick up the Bhagavad Gita and read these kind of verses where Krishna is promising you, don't worry, I'm here. I'm always here. It's really lovely. This verse gave me a lot of hope today. Okay, so let's look at it deeply. So in the purport, Prabhupada is saying that the proper understanding of one's constitutional position in relationship to Krishna is so nice that it can at once lift one from the struggle for existence which goes on in the ocean of nescience or ignorance. So the point here is, what is our constitutional position? And on this forum, we have discussed this many number of times, that our constitutional position is that we are eternally part and parcel of Krishna, and we are his servants. In one of the letters that Srila Prabhupada wrote to his disciples, which I have got here, word to word, obviously, Srila Prabhupada says, his relationship is never lost. It's simply forgotten by the influence of Maya. So it may be regained or revived by the process of hearing the holy name of Krishna. And then the devotee engages himself in the service of the Lord, which is his original or constitutional position. The relationship of the living entity with Krishna is eternal, and both Krishna and the living entity are eternal. The process is one of revival only, nothing new. So how simple, Prabhupada is making it extremely simple, that what we have to realize is that our constitutional position is never lost. It's never ever lost. Very clearly, Prabhupada is saying this. It is simply forgotten because we have come under the influence of Maya, and we have forgotten what our relation with the Lord is. But as soon as we engage in devotional services, or as soon as we engage in the process of chanting the holy name of the Lord, we will again revive our constitutional position. The fact is that by nature, because we are part and parcel of Krishna, Krishna is Satchitanand. He is eternal, he is full of knowledge, and he's always blissful. Because we are part of Krishna, we also are Satchitanand. We are also eternal, full of knowledge, and blissful. Because our constitutional nature is that we are blissful, that is the reason why even in this material world, we are constantly trying to look for happiness. Prabhupada gives a very simple analogy to explain this. And he says that if you take a drop of the water from the ocean, that drop is also salty because the ocean water is salty. So yes, in terms of the magnitude, we may not be the same as Krishna, but in terms of our nature, we are exactly the same, just like how the drop of ocean water is also salty, like how the ocean water is salty. So because we are eternal, because we are blissful, we are constantly searching for happiness in this material world also. But the problem is that this material world is temporary. So in a place that is temporary, how are we going to find something that is permanent or eternal? And that is why we are never able to find that. However, the main thing to understand is, first we have to come to this position of understanding what is my position in relation to Krishna. And again, Prabhupada says, love of God is dormant within everyone. And to realize that love is to fulfill the purest ambition. So to come to the position of understanding, of realizing who am I, what is my relation with Krishna, and how do I revive this forgotten relation? This relation that I have with Krishna is not unique in that sense, because each and every living entity has this relation with Krishna. But because of Maya, like Prabhupada says, because of Maya, we have forgotten this. So that was one very important point in the purport which Prabhupada was making. Now, again, it says that this material world is sometimes regarded as an ocean of nescience, as an ocean of ignorance. And unfortunately, we have fallen into this material world of ignorance. And because as eternal living entities, because it is our nature to be blissful, but this material world is not always blissful. In fact, it is full of miseries. It is full of miseries because of our ignorance, because we have forgotten that we are part and parcel of Krishna. So it is full of miseries. And we are repeatedly caught in this ocean of birth and death and miseries. We somehow need to get out of this. In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his prayers, he says that he's praying that Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patita Mam Vishame Bhavam Budau. He's calling this material world that it is a place full of miseries, and somehow or the other I have fallen into this world. And he's praying that only Krishna can pick me up from this place of miseries. And that is exactly all of our positions, that we have somehow or the other fallen into this place of constant miseries. Now, imagine that a person who's fallen in the middle of the ocean, he may be an expert swimmer, like Prabhupada says in the purport, he may be an expert swimmer, but for him to get out of the middle of the ocean is very, very, very difficult, because you cannot even see the shore when you are in that position. So at that time, it is only somebody else who can help you, somebody who can hold your hand and pull you out. Only then you can be saved. And in the same way, we are in this material world. No matter how much we are trying to make our lives comfortable, by getting house and spouse and children and money and whatever else. But the problem is that all of this is temporary, because we cannot avoid death. So the real problem, like Prabhupada always said, the real problem is birth, old age, disease, and death. And nobody's trying to solve the real problem. Nobody's trying to see how I can become immortal, how I can get out of this cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. Right? So in this verse, Krishna is actually telling us how we can do that, right? So here the question is, how can we find relief from these miseries? We speak about miseries all the time. We know that this material world is dukkhalaya shashvatam. So how do we get out of these miseries? And Krishna is giving us the solution here. What he's saying is that, like how when you are in the middle of the ocean, if you can get onto a boat, you will survive. Same way, if you can get onto the boat of knowledge. And very important to understand what kind of knowledge. So there's this verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam where it says that in this material world, there are different types of achievement. But of all of them, the achievement of knowledge is considered to be the highest, because one can cross the ocean of nescience only on the boat of knowledge. Otherwise, the ocean is impassable. But the point here is that what kind of knowledge are we talking about? We are not talking about material knowledge. That is not going to help us at all, because material knowledge it's almost like information. It's like data that is stored or loaded onto the brain. But I'm sure you will all agree that this information also keeps changing. Am I right in saying that a few years back, somebody would say that this particular diet or this particular, what you're eating is the best thing to do. That's good for you. And then suddenly, 2 years down the line, they say, no, that product actually is not nice. You should not be eating it. That is harmful for you. So like that, the material information, the material data keeps changing. So how can something that is ever changing, how can it help us to attain something that is permanent? And that is why we come to this realization that this material knowledge is not going to help us to solve the real problems of life. And thus, we need real knowledge. Real knowledge is where we understand what is matter, what is spirit, who is the controller of both, who am I, what is my relation with this controller, right? So knowledge of scriptures, knowledge of spirituality is transcendental. And that is what is going to help us to cross this ocean. Not knowledge of this material world. That is not going to help us. In fact, material knowledge is called as Jada Vidya. It's temporary, because it keeps changing every time. Spiritual knowledge is Paravidya, which is considered transcendental. Why it is transcendental is because that is the only knowledge which can free us from this conditional material existence. And that is why Krishna here in this verse is saying that if we can get onto the boat of knowledge, then we can cross this ocean of material miseries. So interesting point is that we always speak about karma, and yes, we are all aware that we've done some activities, we are still continuing to do something, and we will get reactions for it, whether good or bad. if you do sinful activities, you will get bad reactions. If you do pious activities, you might get good reactions. However, transcendental knowledge can free us from all kinds of reactions, whether they are good or whether they are bad. And transcendental knowledge actually, because it revives our lost memory that we are the servant of Krishna, that is why it can actually award us liberation from the ocean of birth and death. Because what has happened is that we have spent lifetimes upon lifetimes in this darkness of the material world. And because we have forgotten how life is in the spiritual world, in the enlightenment of the spiritual world, we are caught in this darkness. And like we understand that if we are in the ocean, if we are caught in the darkness, unless we get help from somebody who probably hands us a rope and we can hold on to that rope and pull ourselves out, or if we are in the darkness, if somebody shows us the torchlight, then we are able to see. Otherwise, we will not be able to get out of that. And that torchlight is the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. So again, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is from the Uddhav Gita, Krishna is speaking to Uddhav. And Krishna is saying, my dear Uddhava, just as a blazing fire turns firewood into ashes, similarly, devotion unto me completely burns to ashes sins committed by my devotees. So yes, we understand about karma. We know that, your karmas, it will come back. But then Krishna is promising in our scriptures that don't worry about it. If you take to my devotional service, if you surrender to me, if you get on this boat of knowledge, then all your sins will be burnt to ashes. There is another very, very beautiful verse in the Gita, and we've studied that. So I wonder if somebody could recite that verse, which obviously clearly Krishna says, don't worry about sinful actions. Anybody wants to recite that verse? I'm sure everybody knows it. It is one of the most famous verses where Krishna is promising.
Is it Sarva Dharma Parityajya?
Rupa Mataji.
Yeah.
Can you recite the entire verse, please?
Yes. Sarva Dharma Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshishyami Ma Sucha.
Yeah. So see, again, Krishna in so many places is promising us. He's saying to us that if you just take to my devotional service, if you just surrender unto me, if you just chant my name, if you get on the boat of transcendental knowledge, you don't have to worry about the sins that you have committed. And it says, in fact, in the Gita Mahatmya, when Lord Shiva is talking to Parvati also, he is saying the same thing, that when one starts, studying the Bhagavad Gita very sincerely and seriously, then by the grace of the Lord, the reactions of his past misdeeds will not act upon him. Time and time again, being given this promise. Time and time again, we are being promised by the Lord himself that don't worry. In one of the lectures, Prabhupada is writing that because we are in this material world for lifetimes, so none of us can say that we have not committed sinful actions. None of us can say that. All of us, because we are under the influence of the modes of material nature, because we are in ignorance, all of us have committed sinful activities. But it does not matter. Prabhupada says it does not matter. Like how Krishna is saying here, it does not matter. As soon as you take to devotional service, and that is why Krishna consciousness actually is, in the last statement of this purport, Prabhupada says that the boat of Krishna consciousness is very simple, but at the same time, the most sublime. Because it's being said, Krishna consciousness is so simple that you just take to chanting of the holy name. And all your sinful reactions will be burned. You know, in chapter 10, verse 25, very interesting this verse is, and I will just read this. It says, of the great sages, I am Bhrigu. Of vibrations, I am the transcendental Om. Of sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy names, Japa. And of immovable things, I am the Himalayas. So Krishna is saying that of sacrifices, I am chanting of the holy names. So many times we hear this, that the Lord's name is non-different to the Lord himself. We hear it, but hearing something and realizing it is very different. So it's so important to constantly remind ourselves. And Krishna is saying that of sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy name. So again, like I said, not just in the Gita, but in all our scriptures, Krishna is giving us these promises because he wants us back. He desperately wants us back. He does not want to see us suffer over here. And that is why he promises in the Gita again, 10.11, he's promising tesam evanukampartam aham ajnana jam tamaha nashyami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. So what he's saying is that for somebody who is taken to devotional service, I will be like the torch that takes away all ignorance. I will be the torchlight of knowledge that takes away all the ignorance. So time and time again, Krishna is promising us. Obviously, he wants something from us. He's willing to give us everything, but he cannot force. And thus he wants to see that we are taking that first step. Recently, the Kartik month has just gone, and the Kartik month actually signifies that. It signifies that Krishna is willing to give his mercy. He's actually waiting to give us his mercy. But that one finger, that endeavor, that has to come from us, from all of us, you know, and it should not be forced. It should come because of the love that we have for Krishna. And before we end, as usual, we must always end with a short story. So here we've got the story of Ajamil. Now I think everybody, I'm sure everybody knows this story of Ajamil. You know, when Ajamil was on his deathbed, and the Yamadutas came to take him, and then, you know, as we can see from the picture, the Yamadutas are trying to take away Ajamil's soul, and then the Vishnudutas come to protect him. And then there is this confusion. The Yamadutas are confused. Why would you come to protect somebody who is such a sinner? He has been sinful all his life, you know. And then the Vishnudutas explained that just by chanting the holy name of Narayan, this Brahmana has become free from the reactions of sinful life. Doesn't this verse give all of us so much hope? We've all committed wrong things that we probably shouldn't have done. Sometimes we may feel guilty. Sometimes we do have a lot of regret. Sometimes it may also come to us that, you know, I'm not qualified to be on this spiritual path because of the activities that I've performed in the past. But here Krishna is promising us, don't worry about it. It's okay. It's all right. You have performed sinful activities, but don't worry about it. Just surrender unto me. Just come to me. Just take my name, and I will rid you of all your sinful activities. So that's really it for this verse. So if there are any questions or queries or comments, please unmute yourselves and you can ask. We have a very quiet audience today. No comments, no questions. Everybody happy with this verse? Do you all also feel the same way that I felt after reading the verse? Very, very hopeful.
Yes, Mataji.
Isn't
Hare
it?
Krishna. Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for the class. Very nice, very short and very precise. It was very good. Yeah, it is very hopeful. The whole thing, because sometimes we get like when we have to when we come to know about so many things we have to do, and sometimes we are not there yet. Obviously, it's a far way ahead to be, where we should, at least I should be. So then, yeah, these are the verses which are very hopeful when Krishna is saying, "Don't worry, do whatever you can, but be in this knowledge." And yes, knowledge is so. Knowledge gives us, power as well. Knowledge gives us, like as I said, that when we are down or depressed or whatever, then these are the verses. The knowledge gives us so much hope and so much light, actually so much understanding to go ahead and not be sad or
Yes, that's true.
like that. Thank you
That's
so much.
no
Hare
problem. Thank you.
Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Joli Mataji.
I'm just thinking about there are two things about knowledge. Is knowledge enough, or do you? I mean, I always think about how do you process that knowledge fruitfully to get. I mean, I'm not sure if hope is the word, because it's a promise. Krishna is promising, and so is Prabhupada. There's a big promise there.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's hope, because if we do what they say, surely we'll get there.
Yes, surely we'll get there. But the point over here, Joli Mataji, is that because we are conditioned, because we are so conditioned, because of so many lifetimes in this material world, are we able to follow even these simple instructions? That's the point. And that is where then that the word hope comes, because I can see that, yes, I've been given this wonderful opportunity. It's very, very simple. But like Rupa Mataji said, I feel I'm falling short. I'm still not there. I'm still not able to do everything that Krishna wants me to do, or Prabhupada wants me to do, or my senior devotees want me to do. I'm still falling short. Although it's so simple, but I'm still falling.
I understand, but that's a growing process, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. So we are growing, and
Yes.
and we have that determination, because that's what we choose to do. So it's a good thing, and you're doing it.
So that's
the hope stage is already past, I think, and it.
Well, yeah, you could put it that way, or you could also put it that way, that the hope that you will one day reach a stage where you will be free of all of these anarthas. That hope, because I'm speaking for myself, maybe I'm obviously I'm always like I'm always thinking I'm falling short here, I'm falling short here, I'm falling short here, but after reading these kind of verses, then I feel, okay, there's hope, there's still hope, there is. And as devotees, the thing is that one must always be hopeful and optimistic, but because we are conditioned, there are times when that optimism is not there. You kind of start to feel a bit like, oh my God, I'm trying so much, but I'm not able to, and I'm feeling a bit down. Again, I'm speaking for myself. So
I know what you're saying, but I think, but personally, at this stage, when I've listened to all the talks and the lectures, and I'm trying to follow it, I think it's actually a preliminary stage to say that you're hoping. And not the word not able to, we're all able, really, because Prabhupada at his stage, we could say he shouldn't have been able to, but he did. He showed us a way, and he was so old at his age.
Of course. And we have to bear in mind that when Prabhupada came to the West, nobody knew about Krishna, and he was able to convince so many people. So of course, I mean, that's obviously there, and Prabhupada is promising. But then on the other hand, we also see that because of our conditioning, not because of the thing what we need to understand, it is not that the knowledge is lacking or the teaching of Prabhupada, everything is perfect. I am not perfect. And we see that around us also, that, when Prabhupada left, there were so many, his disciples who were not able to keep up for whatever reasons. But even when we see that, we should still have the hope that if I follow the instructions properly, so my hope is, or my prayer is, that I'm able to follow the instructions with determination, and then I will get what Krishna is promising me, what Prabhupada is promising me.
You're on our side, Mataji. We're meant to get on Prabhupada's side and Krishna's side.
Yeah.
I know, but you're supporting. I know what you're saying. Yes, I mean, I used to complain about that area all the time, remember?
Yeah.
I was saying, oh, how can you do this? How is it possible with
Yeah.
all this going on and that going on? But really, the teachings, if you're looking at knowledge, is saying,
Yes.
it's saying so, but is
Yeah.
putting it in practice, isn't
Correct.
it?
Correct. Always being committed, being determined, being consistent. And
Yes,
putting it in practice every single day.
absolutely, yes.
Thank you,
Krishna.
Joli Mataji.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I cannot see the
Hare
name.
Krishna. It's Bhagwati here.
Bhagwati Mataji. Long time.
Yes, I know. I just wanted to say, here exactly Krishna is talking about the sin, destroying all our sins.
Yeah.
I'm sure is he talking about our ego, because it's the assertion of individuality and superiority behind each act, isn't it? Is that the sin he's talking about? Like we commit sins, like we hurt someone, or we steal someone, or we do something silly, we commit sort of things.
Bhagwati Mataji, the thing is, I mean, we could look at it from many different point of views, but in this particular verse, I think what is being spoken about actually is the wrong activities that we do, so sinful activities. Now, of course, you can bring the ego part there, that it is because of the ego that we are performing sinful activities.
Yes, okay.
Simple. I mean, that's obviously because as soon as I identify with the person that I am, which is not actually me, I perform sinful activities because I'm identifying. So somewhere at the end of the day, it is that ego which is making us do these things, that what we are doing. So obviously we're talking about sinful activities, but at the back of it is always the ego, which is telling our mind and intelligence to perform these sinful activities.
Yeah, because if you kill that ego, then you can come up to the divine knowledge of
Correct. Because as soon as, but also Bhagwati Mataji, the ego is the first thing that's created and the last thing that you can give up.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you're able to give up the ego, everything else is sorted. There's no stress at all then, isn't it? But it is so difficult to give up, because it's the first thing that's created, and it's so difficult to give it up.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Thank you. Wonderful, Klaus. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Mataji,
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
talking about,
Sorry, 1 second. Joli Mataji, just let's listen to Bhavini Mataji.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, Bhavini Mataji.
Mataji, when reading this text, I was always quite confused about how, the sinful activities, how can they be wiped away or, burnt into ashes? And listening to you today, you went through it really quite well and explained it, that they can only be burnt away when you've reached that point where you've had this transformation, from within.
Yes.
And because you've had that transformation from within, you become you elevate yourself, and that's why those sinful activities from the past can be wiped.
Yes.
I never really understood it before, and today you've explained it really well, that I managed to understand. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, it's beautiful. You know what? Even I've read this verse maybe many times before, like I've read the Gita, but sometimes when you go deeper, and I'll tell you what it is, the scriptures reveal themselves to you at whatever stage you're at. So sometimes, you just have to wait for that revelation to come and that understanding to come. And you should be patient about it. So, but yeah, when I was reading today's verse, I was really amazed the way Krishna is saying that, when you understand who you are, what's your relation, what are you doing in this material world, and you realize this is all such a waste. And when you come to that understanding, then slowly, yes, your sinful reactions will be wiped away. Krishna is promising us that.
Thank you.
Yes, Joli Mataji.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Mataji. I was thinking about I think what the message is coming across is not ongoing sins, is the sins you had performed beforehand, before becoming Casey.
That's true. And one of the offenses that we can make to the holy name is performing sinful activities based on the strength of chanting the holy name. That's offense number 7, if I'm not mistaken. And that offense, so what happens is, yes, probably you've come to this stage thinking that I've come to Krishna consciousness, I've surrendered to Krishna, so Krishna has very kindly taken away all my sins. But then thinking that now I'm in this in this bubble, I have this security of chanting, of performing devotional services, so I can commit sinful activities. That is an offense. So yes, what you're saying, Joli Mataji, is right, that your sinful activities will be wiped away, but that does not mean that you continue to perform sinful activities, because if you're doing that, then obviously you are going to get the results of it 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
But also, there's a difference between sinful activities and wrongdoing, isn't it? Because you can be talking to somebody roughly, but that doesn't mean it's a sin.
Yes.
But Krishna consciousness teach you not to do that, so you regret it, and often we will apologize, or we'll
correct. So Krishna consciousness, actually what it does is it brings forth your divine characteristics. Like we've read in the Bhagavad Gita, we've got divine and demoniac. Everything is within us. We've got both those qualities. But Krishna consciousness actually brings forward all your divine qualities and subdues and takes away your demoniac qualities. So then when you're doing anything, like if you've done something wrong, from deep within you'll feel that this was not right, how I behaved, how I thought about a person, how I judged a person. And you will want to repent for it and regret for it and genuinely do it.
Hare Krishna. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely verse.
Yes, it is. Yeah, really nice.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes, Hema Mataji. Long time.
Thank you for a wonderful class. Yes, thank you, Mataji. Mataji, I was just saying that this whole verse is explained so beautifully in the conversation between Narad Muni and Prachina Bari, King Prachina Bari.
In Canto 4.
Yes, where he talks about Puranjana, the allegory of Puranjana, and how deep Puranjana gets into his sinful activities.
Yes.
And then the solution to it seems to be Krishna Katha and Sadhu Sangha. Those are the two main solutions that Narad Muni is giving him.
Yeah, but also for this age, remember, yes, Krishna Katha, Sadhu Sangha always, and chanting of the holy names. You start with that, because that is, like I was saying yesterday to a group of people at the manor, to become Krishna conscious, you don't need any qualification. You don't need to wait for the right time and right moment and right day. You can actually start right now, because anybody, anywhere can start chanting. And that is the first step to become Krishna conscious. And then obviously, association and Krishna Katha, because then you will develop the taste for all of that.
Yes.
So it will come.
Chanting is the base. Chanting is the base. Definitely, you're so right.
Yes,
Mataji. Yes. Thank you. Really nice. Very thought-provoking class. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, corrections? Okay. Okay, I don't think there's any other comments. And in that case, we can end our class here. And hopefully I shall see you all again next Wednesday. Thank you, all of you. Vanchakalpatrubhascha
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the
Hare Krishna.